it is known as intensive reading as traditional opposite to extensive reading. This lesson consists of a series of language points using text as point of departure. ESL or EFL reading textbook with words like skill or strategies in the title are now common. A serious problem in that is so-called reading composition skill do not exist. Textbook author talking about when they use the term skill and strategies when they like the term skill and strategies. Gardner, 1978, suggests that these skills are better recorded as activities involving conversation than as categories or abilities. Whatever problem there may be with intensive reading and skill building as procedure for teaching reading, they represent the mainstream of EFL, ESL, or EFL reading instruction today. Number 2, the extensive reading producer. The first, background the extensive reading. There is a large body of research on L1, extensive reading called pleasure reading, sustained silence reading, or interrupted sustained silence reading. One conclusion so far reaches after examining 220 items, not about extensive reading on a longer text or in particular field of study. The second definition of extensive reading. Our working definition of extensive reading as a language teaching or learning procedure is that it is reading a large amount of material or long text. B. For global or general understanding. C. With the intention of deriving pleasure from the text. D. Reading is individual. Will students choosing the books they want to read? And E. Books are not discussed in class. Number 3. Issue extensive reading. 3.1. Graded readers. Many, perhaps most, of these specialists who recommended extensive reading do so on the assumption that the student will be reading graded readers. Distinguish 3 types of graded readers. Number 1. Authentic reader. Not written for pedagogical purpose. And number 2. A pedagogical reader. Written specially for ESL or EFL student. And number 3. Advanced reader. Defining graded reader as book written with a grading scheme, whether it is a simplified version of a professionally written work or an original word written in plain language. 3.2. Transfer of L1 ability. Extensive reading as a teaching procedure cannot be considered without reference to the transfer of L1 reading ability. So far, the only explanation of why extensive reading is effective is that it replicates the process by which we learn to read in our native language. That is, prolonged practice or well than an understanding of how and how much L1 reading ability transferred to L2 would help us mold a model of extensive reading. Number 4. The extensive reading procedure in practice. Although the literature is inconclusive or contradictory in many respects, extensive reading in practice is quite simple. Our description follows this definition. 4.1 Techniques and Tactics. The teacher's role in the extensive reading procedure is to encourage and assist students with their reading. Draft or reading summary giving students the opportunity to demonstrate that they are actually reading. 4.2 Exercise and practical. The main task of students is to read, but reading summaries is valuable not only to profit a means for the teacher to check conversation. 4.3 Research. The main research needed are a collection of books and magazines and place to store them. Without this research, students have to buy their own books or use public libraries, often difficult in EFL student situation. And finally, conclusion. The purpose of this article has been to clarify what the extensive reading procedure is and to describe how it may be used in EFL or ESL reading instruction. One could argue that students learn to read by reading, and that conversation will take care of itself. In other words, students with a certain level of ability in English can learn to read by extensive reading alone. Experiments have shown, if not conclusively, that reading ability can improve as much with extensive reading as with skill training. At present, we cannot claim the extensive reading is sufficient for most ESL or EFL students to learn to read English. So, I think that's enough. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you again. Bye-bye.